Hello, everyone. Today is our third episode of CEO and Executive Series. We are live from our Facebook page, canadacover.com. We have our guest here with us. He is a Nepali Consulate General in Toronto and founder of Kunjar Sharma and Associate Incorporation. Hi, Mr. Kunjar Sharma. Welcome to our live talk show. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you. Thank you, and thank the chamber, the Nepalese Canadian Chamber of Commerce, to organize this informative program.
Okay, so we will start from the general question. Can you tell us something about your childhood, starting days?
Okay. I was born in the high Himalayas in Nepal, and I have an optimistic view of life. Therefore, rather than calling life struggle, journey, I look upon it as a success. Um, um, that's really what propelled me, even though I lost my father when I was 2 years of age and my mother when I was 10 years of age. Um, there was a pressure on my mother and my brothers to give me away for adoption. But I was cheerful and perhaps cute, you know, and and so they said, "Well, we'll keep the kid," and that's really how I grew up. As you know, in Canada, you've seen the fur seals, you know, the baby seals.
Mm-hmm.
They are, and because they are so cute, they are, that cuteness protects them. So most beautiful baby in the world, all the babies are most beautiful. And that's how I sort of survived the harsh realities of Nepali mountain.
Okay, let's move to our next question. So, you completed your SKLC in Nepal and then BCom, MCom in India, PhD in US, and licensed insolvency trustee in Canada, right? So, how do you summarize your life journey of struggle and success?
Well, the the thing is that um, the Parliament of Canada, in its infinite wisdom, enacted a bankruptcy and insolvency legislation. This is meant to help an honest debtor start a fresh start in life. Okay? And that is the profession I ultimately ended up. But when I started in in the U.S., I was much more of an academic, etc. But I came to Canada and somehow ended up becoming involved in the sixth largest accounting firm in the world, the Canadian firm now called BDO Dunwoody, and I ultimately rose to become a partner there. And then there is a mandatory retirement at the age of 65. And so I had to retire at the age of 65. Then I started my own company, and for the last 20 years, I have been running it. So you can imagine that I'm an 85-year-old man. But, with all the spirit and enthusiasm, it's a wonderful country. It's a wonderful profession.
Okay, so coming to your profession, so Canada's national debt has doubled from 1.1 to 2.1 trillion in 2022 and 2023, right? So Canadians are on more debt than ever. So you have offered Canadians' dream of being debt-free through Kunjar Sharma and Associates. So how can you help in that?
Basically, what I am, I am a federally licensed practitioner.
Mhm.
It's because of my background and education, as well as the requirement to become a licensed insolvency trustee. I'm like a between an accountant and a lawyer. Okay, I'm an officer of the court under the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act. You know, that little book that you see in the background called Insolvency, Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act. When I started in 1974, the book was this little thin. Now it is thick. Okay. So, but basically, what the book, what the act does, it gives the people and the companies an opportunity to breathe, to come back afresh. For the individuals, it's the consumer proposal process. And thereby you can save some of your assets or much of your assets, depending on the circumstances. As an licensed trustee, I'm able to analyze it as well as process it. You have to, in order to get the debt relief, whether it is complete relief through a bankruptcy or a partial relief through a proposal process, you have to go through a licensed trustee. And I'm qualified for that. And there are about 1,000 of them all across Canada, like me.
Okay, so we heard, we audience who are watching us, they heard the word bankruptcy. So what is bankruptcy and what are the different kinds of solution provided by your firm in regards to individual and business debt?
Bankruptcy is where you are unable to pay your debts as it becomes due. And you start the formal process. The formal process is guided by the law called the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act. It's a federal statute. The proposal, on the other hand, is also a condition where a person is, or a company for that matter, is unable to pay the debts as it becomes due. But proposal is a scheme of arrangement whereby, over a period of time, you propose to the creditors that please take this, and as a trustee, we analyze it and we recommend to the creditors if that is actually a good deal or a bad deal. Ultimately, the decision is that of the creditors. Okay.
Okay, so are there any ways to reduce debt without filing bankruptcy or affecting our credit score?
Without filing bankruptcy,
Mhm.
are actually exposed to the lawsuits, judgments, etc. Whereas if you file bankruptcy, you have a protection that is certain assets cannot be seized, or a proposal, you have a protection as long as you keep to the terms of the proposal. So let's take, for an example, a consumer proposal, which is an individual that owes debts of under $250,000, unsecured debt. That means it doesn't include mortgages, etc. And whether it's a credit card debts or a supplier, food, clothing, or whatever, then we analyze the ability of the person, individual, based upon the individual's income and assets as to what is a fair situation. And for both the creditors and the debtor, okay, the consumer proposal has to be fair to both parties. And we sort of then give a report to the creditors. The creditors say, on balance, this is better. If the creditors don't accept it, the person goes through a bankruptcy. in which case all the assets are liquidated and the proceeds come to the trustee and we distribute it. So in our calculation to the creditors, we say that if the person were to go into bankruptcy, you will get 10 cents on dollar on your debt, whereas 10 cents, on the dollar. Whereas what the person is offering is maybe 20 cents or 25 cents, or depending on the equity, could be even 100 cents. But there's a limitation of a 5-year period on a consumer proposal. On an ordinary proposal or a company's proposal, there is no limit. Okay, it could be any number of years. I've done proposals for companies that extends 10 years. Okay? And the creditors thought that was a good deal. And we thought my analysis showed that. So they accepted it. So that's the success. The occasionally the creditors will say, no, we're not going to take it unless, the debtor is able to offer more. And if the debtor says they can't afford to offer more, then we go through the bankruptcy, which is liquidation of all assets.
Okay, so I think it's clear to our audience. So, can you tell us more about your professional and social journey in Canada as an honorary consulate general for Nepal to Toronto? So, what services do you provide?
Okay, that's question. The honorary consul position, Canada and Nepal did not have a diplomatic relations until 1965. Okay, and then the resident embassy of Nepal in Ottawa did not come into existence until 2012. Okay, so when I moved to Canada, and I am in 1971, for 2 years, I was a research professor at Dalhousie University in Halifax. And so in 73, I came to Toronto, and after a bit of a struggle, found a job with the company, which was a really wonderful company called BDO, and I've been in Toronto since 1973. I became an honorary consul general in 1993, 20 years later. So at that time, there were very few Nepalis, and so I started helping Nepalis, and Indians for that matter, because of my education experience and the position in the company. So I also went to the United Way, the Board of Trustees of the United Way. You may have heard of the United Way. The year I became a trustee at the United Way, the budget to raise money for the United Way work was $50 million. And it was a wonderful opportunity. So because of all of that, I got more and more involved with the community work. And so my name became, a little bit known to the Nepali community here in Canada, as well as in the United States. Now, mind you, because of my age, I've met in my lifetime King Mahendra, all the Koirala, the Pipi Koirala, Matrika Prasad Koirala, Girija Koirala. It was during Girija Koirala's prime ministership that I became the honorary consul general, and then the other people. So it was easier for me to get to, but before I became an honorary consul general, all the honorary consul generals all over the world for Nepal were always foreigners. Okay. That means, they were in Canada, it would be a born Canadian, probably a white, Anglo-Saxon. So when my application nomination was sent to the palace by Girijababu, palace said, no, he's a Nepali. So it went back and forth 3 times. After 3 times, the parliament can override under the 1959 Constitution of Nepal. So Girijababu told the king at that time, Maharaj Dhiraj, who can champion Nepali cause better than an expatriate Nepali? And that actually is like, your Federation of Nepali Chamber of Commerce, Canadian Federation of Nepal. They are championing the cause for promotion of trade between Nepal and Canada. So that's basically how I became an honorary consul general. And let me just tell you one thing. There is much greater pleasure in giving rather than, always thinking of taking. And I sort of gradually built that reputation or inclination, to be honest with you. Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's a great journey from 1993 to now that you are a consulate, and I think it will benefit all the people here and in Nepal as well, even the government, even the diplomatic relations between Nepal and Canada. So, okay, now let's move to our next question. So, you are involved in different types of memberships like INSOL, CAIRP, etc. So, can you explain further about those memberships?
Well, the CAIRP, OAIRP, or INSOL, they are basically the Canadian CAIRP, Canadian Association of Insolvency and Restructuring Professionals. That's the federal. OAIRP is Ontario, Association of Insolvency and Restructuring Professionals. INSOL is global. Now, in the old days, the name was a little different. And our association, professional association, had a conference in Halifax. And so I was there along with, other professionals of my tribe. And we were in that fancy hotel. So there some Americans came by and were asking, well, why are you here? So I said, well, we are here for CIA. And so they said, oh, CIA at that time was Canadian Insolvency Association. So we felt that was a misnomer, and we changed the designation name. Instead of calling it CIA, we called it CAIRP, which is a mouthful, but basically describes the profession. It requires hard study, knowledge of law, business practice, etc., and accounting and law. And after you have passed, they give you a written examination and an oral examination. It used to take 4 years. Now it probably about 2 years to get the license, to get the designation. Once you get the designation, then you go for the license to practice, much like the lawyers do. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So pretty much you are involved in different media and public relations, like your ADN TV, Tronostar, Global and Mail, India Abroad as well. So, what is your experience in media and public relations?
Basically, I have a positive experience. People like the idea of visiting Nepal. You know, Nepal is so prominent, so desirable country to visit as a tourist. Okay, we still have to grow the country, develop the country, but I was always welcomed by all of the media, and I was able to then, um, you know, promote the cause of Nepal. Even initially, I was issuing visas
Mhm.
because up until 2012, the the embassy of Nepal in Canada did not exist. The embassy of Nepal in the United States acted also as the embassy of Nepal for Canada. So, um, so I did literally everything except issuing a new passport or renewing. And later on, our Mulukian apparently prevents from somebody that is an honorary to do the adhikrit warisnama, power of attorney. But for a number of years, I did power of attorney. There was an ambassador of Nepal to U.S. He was also subsequently became ambassador of Nepal to the United Nations. He wanted to decentralize, and and he basically um, uh, gave me all of the encouragement, and because of that, I was able to do all of that. This is honorary means without pay. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is a labor of love, essentially.
Okay. So all of your life you've been involved in professional and social activities. So you received a bunch of awards. And so how would you like to describe the emotions? So how, when you feel rewarded for your hard work? So how does it that feel?
Basically, I don't look for a reward. Okay, you know, they you the Nepalis will remember karmanneva dhikaraste mahaphaleshu kadachana ma karma phalvadesu. Mato sangvasta karmani. That means do not uh, doing the work is your right. Do not expect a return from it. And that's Kennedy, John Kennedy, the president of the United States. He also said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. So that's what has been my life philosophy, and it has worked so pretty well so far.
Okay, so we are coming to an end. So at the end, we'd like to, I mean, what life findings you got till now, your experience and everything. So for the coming generation like me and for our audience, so what life lessons would you like to hand over?
Well, I would tell you there are 2 points. One is the Mahajanu ena gatam sapanta. You learn, you respect the elders. The other point is the younger generation is always better, smarter. And I am so delighted that the younger Nepalis like yourself and you are in media, but people that are in business or government or any other different walks of life, they are getting brighter and smarter, and that is how it should be.
True.
That's how I would I have a very optimistic view that young Nepalis are going to rise up. We have the saying "Hanse Ma Hoste." The Nepalis have always created that. I cherish that. So
Okay, so at last I would like to thank you for your wonderful givings of your experience and your serving for the government of Canada and Nepal as well, and all the social activities you have done who have helped people so far and everything. And I'd like to thank our audience for being with us, joining our live, and it was a very informative session, and we really wish you to have a good days, healthy days ahead, and to guiding people like us to the journey where we can find our impact, we can help society as well, as long like along pursuing our personal goals. So thank you so much. We'd like to end this session, and thank you so much.
thank you very much.